I had read it before. I thought it was in Urbanite, but I guess it's in Baltimore Fishbowl. Okay, well, thank you very much for that, for those two articles. And our next reader is going to be Emily Samuelson. She's been a writer for all of her life and a therapist for much of it. She's completing a book called Soaring Above the Ashes, Thriving Beyond Childhood Sexual Abuse. A diverse book group of men and women from around the country shared the stories of their painful childhoods, their struggle to heal, and their path toward a wholeness. Emily is going to share some of these messages, manuscripts, with us tonight. Emily?
I'm going to read two pieces. One of them is an essay that I've written for the book. One of them is an essay I've written for the book. And the other is an edited interview that will be a part of the book as well. And that's about it. I can't imagine living a life with no fear. When I visited the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador a few years ago, I met some creatures that live without any fear of predators. I grew up with squirrels skittering away, bunnies frozen in fear, birds flapping into the sky when I approached. Even grasshoppers hop away. On the Galapagos, birds sitting 3 feet away on their nests were indifferent to my presence. They didn't suspect me as a potential cradle robber or carnivore. Mustard yellow iguanas with slit eyes looked right through me. Sea lions rolled their fat bodies over to fall back asleep in the sand. No flaring nostrils or hissing or raised blood pressure in any of the creatures I met. A life without fear. I want to wrap my head around that concept, but I can't. It speaks an emotional language I can't decipher. As a survivor of sexual abuse, I never knew a life without idling high, the constant hum of hyperarousal, and the steady vibration of vigilance. I suckled terror, swam in it. Its lingering essence crippled me. For too much of my life, I lived with a choked throat that stifled my voice, terror in my bones that slowed my dance, and constriction that made me a smaller target. My apprehension has always been about the interpersonal world. I don't worry about drowning or falling from a cliff. At 21, I traveled alone through Europe for a couple of months with a backpack, a rail pass, and no itinerary. I never thought twice about driving cross-country, just my 2-year-old daughter and me, or driving a 16-foot moving truck 200 miles on a rainy highway when she moved out of her college apartment. No, my worries have been about being judged, abandoned, and betrayed. Fear and its iterations have been frequent signposts on the winding road of my life. As a little one, I lived with a knot in my stomach, twitching muscles, and held breath when I heard my father's approaching footsteps. His guttural threat to ensure my silence reverberated in my head. He would snap my neck in two. I had 20 years of sleep punctuated by nightmares about being stalked, trapped, and raped. The fear for my life evolved into fear of remembering my life. My abuse became a secret from everyone, including me. For most of my life, I danced around an elephant I never knew was parked in the middle of my brain. My psyche had to construct walls around my memories to keep some semblance of a normal childhood, and walls around my heart to keep it safe. Once I remembered my abuse, I lived in a waking nightmare. No matter how hard I tried to stop them, fragments of disturbing images kept flickering across the screen of my mind. Knotted muscles tormented my body, twisting on their own volition. I heard animal howls spewing from deep in my gut and through my open throat. And because I was certainly a bad girl for doing all the dirty things I did, one day I found myself in a flashback of weeping rocking and pleading with God, please don't kill me, please, please don't kill me, God, please don't kill me. As a child, I knew I was damned to hell for my sins. Then came the trepidation about telling the truth. Would anyone believe me? Would the people I love be disgusted by me because of the disgusting things I did? Instead, my friends rallied around me. Some wept for what was done to me. All of them opened their hearts wide enough for me to find shelter there. If only my family could have done the same. Instead, I was banished. Many years ago, a therapist of mine told me the story of a tiger that paced back and forth all day in his cramped cage. Unless the tiger was sleeping or eating, he spent his waking hours pacing. He'd go a few steps in one direction, then turn and go to the other. Back and forth, all day long. Then he was moved out of the zoo, taken out of his cage, and released into the wide open plain. A scattering of bushes dotted the land. A small watering hole was nearby. And every day, that tiger paced in his cramped space, the space his mind had gotten so used to that he kept himself small, despite the freedom to roam. After hearing that, I vowed to break free. I did even more work to heal. I worked with psychotherapists, a hypnotherapist, a dance therapist, body workers, acupuncturists, chiropractors, massage therapists, herbalists, energy healers, Reiki practitioners, and a shaman. I took medication, a full impact self-defense course, and did a form of trauma therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and more EMDR. It's healing work I continue to do to move toward wholeness, my very deepest wish. I have nothing to prove anymore. I don't have to be the best psychologist on the East Coast to validate my existence. I can settle for being an excellent one, even just a really good one. I no longer carry a weighty burden of shame. I have nothing to be ashamed of, so I packed up every ounce I could and shipped it back where it belongs. Now I can embrace my flawed self with compassion. I have a family of friends who cherish me for being me. I don't need anyone to rescue me. I've already done that. And here I am today. I faced my dragons. I exposed the secret, lost my family, and gained myself. For so long, I wanted to sever the threads that kept me connected to a history of pain and betrayal. But if I'm not a victim or a survivor or even triumphant, who am I? Without my past defining me and yanking me backwards, I can live in the present. The mystery page. Living in the here and now, there's more room to breathe, to notice the trees dancing with the wind, the birds sing louder. I notice the buds ready to burst into the new life. Time is more expansive. I can luxuriate in sensations in the moment. The temperature of the air on my skin, a myriad of scents, the symphony of quiet sounds, the rising and sinking of my chest. Breathe in and let it go. I've begun to love the color green with its vast array of tints and shades. New green is my favorite, the green of beginnings. Bright, fresh, and full of possibility. I hope to live in my world more like the creatures in the Galapagos, unafraid. Most of the time, I can substitute caution for fear. Hopefully, I can deepen my experience of the world as welcoming and abundant, using discernment to protect myself when needed. I want to spend the rest of my life holding open the door to my heart when fear threatens to slam it shut. I want to welcome loved ones with grace and compassion, and I want to welcome myself home. Path will be free of debris and detritus, of old bones and lost promises. Just a clear path into my warm, wide open, beating heart.